Well, I'm going to the frontier, walk up to the cashier, order up a root beer and a number one. Cover it with green stuff, one scoop is not enough. Find a booth is real tough, back by the Duke. Meet my family, meet my friends in the quirkiest restaurant I have ever been. All of Albuquerque's favorite spot, it's the Frontier Restaurant.
The Frontier Restaurant is a proud supporter of Proview Sports Network.
Dreamstyle Remodeling has been wowing homeowners in New Mexico since 1989. Selected as Best Custom Home Remodeler for 3 consecutive years by readers of the Albuquerque Journal, we're also your exclusive provider for top home improvement brands like Renewal by Anderson, Four Seasons, Blaze King, and many others. Founded and headquartered in Albuquerque, Dreamstyle Remodeling is family-owned and now employs more than 500 people across the southwestern U.S. In fact, we've helped more than 60,000 homeowners improve their home in New Mexico, Arizona, California, Idaho, and West Texas. We're committed to providing a superior customer experience. We've earned 4.6 stars with hundreds of online reviews and have an A+ with the BBB. Dreamstyle Remodeling is a proud supporter of UNM Athletics. Visit our beautiful 10,000 square foot showroom at 1460 Renaissance Boulevard across from Sam's Club or dreamstyleremodeling.com to make your home remodeling dreams come true.
The service department at Gala Chevrolet is clean, modern, and ready for you. Our master technicians service every make and model, including certified service on any GM vehicle. Service done right the first time, every time, right here at the all-new Gala Chevrolet.
Car Crafters, proud supporter of Proview Sports Network.
Are you sure we're supposed to be doing this?
Don't worry, I've watched him do it 1,000 times. Come on, what's the worst that can happen?
No! Bad dog!
Hi, welcome to Car Crafters. What happened?
Don't worry, we'll make it like it never happened.
Car Crafters, it's like it never happened.
The Sports Desk is proudly presented by Car Crafters. It's like it never happened.
Good morning. Welcome to the Sports Desk live on Comcast Channel 26, also live on Facebook. Ed Nunez, along with, to my right, Richard Tripp. To my left, Wally Dragmeister, Scott Galletti on assignment. And Richard, first, I'm going to go with you. We had the seating and selection show on Saturday, and you weren't able to make it. Sure missed you out here. It was about a 2-hour show. NMAA released the brackets at 11:30, and I'll tell you what. Adam Deal, Sebastian Noel, Manny Lucero, Scott Galletti, myself. You know, it was a lot of projections, a lot of talking about what might happen. And I'll tell you what, in a couple of those brackets, Adam, who did the projections, was pretty spot on. You know, so I got to say he does a lot of work with that. And playoff football's here, Rich.
It's going to be awesome. As you said, I apologize I wasn't here. I missed a good time, as you guys, you know, we have every year. But, man, yeah, you look at the brackets, and right away you start looking at those, either one, the upsets. You're looking at the NMA get it right. A lot of times they do. You know, it all works itself out. You know, so a couple of brackets that you kind of look at and say, wow. And a couple of brackets that you look at and go, upset. You know, so I'm looking forward to it.
Rich, you know, welcome back to the show. You were the former host of the show, the former co-host of the show. It's been many years since we've had you on the Sports Desk, so welcome back, my friend.
Thank you.
You bet.
It's an honor to be here.
Yo, of course, it always is. And to our left is Wally Dragmeister. Proview Networks has election coverage tonight, and I think it's the first time that we've done that as a network, and we're looking forward to it. We're excited. Wally, you got an esteemed panel that's going to be joining you tonight for the coverage. Talk about that, what you're going to be looking at, and we talked about it a little bit before, some close races here and there, but talk about your esteemed panel a little bit, and who's going to be joining you tonight.
Yeah, 7:30 this evening, Channel 26, and on Facebook Live, Proview Networks. I'll be the host, and then we have a great panel. Georgia Scott, kind of a political overview. He's run a lot of races. He's got a good perspective. We have Amanda Aragon, who runs a education advocacy group, very active in the education scene around New Mexico. And then we have Dowd Muska from the Rio Grande Foundation, a little bit of a free market take on things. So we're going to follow a lot of the races. As you said, there'll be a lot of close ones. And then give some analysis. What might it mean for the policies that get implemented? Unlike sports where the goal is to win, in politics, once you win, then you have to go to work. And so we'll take a look at who wins and some insight as to why, and then what it might mean for New Mexico.
A couple of races, the one I'm looking at and I'm kind of watching closely. Social Taurus Small, Vet Harrell, margin of error according to the latest journal poll, 46%, 40, and you can throw those percentages out.
You can throw them out.
A lot of money spent on that race.
The amount of money is incredible. You know, over $12 million is the latest count that we see on money, and you know a campaign is spending a lot of money because that's the Southern District, and so the amount of TV ads they're running in the Albuquerque metro market only touches a few people that could actually vote for her. So, you know, there's a lot of money being spent. And then that campaign in particular has a very active Get Out the campaign with both paid and volunteers. So, you know, that's a seat that normally you'd think the Republicans would easily win, but it's going to be a horse race tonight.
It's been a Republican stranglehold for many years. Steve Pierce has held that seat for many years. And if Social Taurus Small broke through tonight, it would be considered a minor upset, would you say?
Well, I'd say more
even major.
Even major. And then the other thing that's interesting is I've been reading on the national scene that even if she loses, that one of the reasons there's so much money invested in that race is the Democrats nationally view that as now a winnable seat. And so if she doesn't get all the way there this evening, in 2 years, she will likely be the candidate that will be back to try to win that race again.
Okay, it's a race that people are looking at nationally as well. That's a race they're keeping an eye on nationally.
Absolutely. Big
so
time.
Is there any other races? Again, that's one I think that's intriguing to a lot of people. Is there any other? Deb Holland, Janice Arnold-Jones. It looked like Holland had it decently, but I think one thing, Wally, is those polls. You know, President Trump won in 2016, and it didn't look like he would. So I think people don't look at polls, and really it seems like people are getting the message out to vote. I think they are getting out to vote, but I don't know if those polls are so important as they used to be, judging by President Trump's victory in 2016.
Well, you know, polls are, you know, you have to figure out how to weight them. And one of the things that I do think happened in the presidential election when Trump won was a lot of people just didn't want to talk to pollsters. And so if you have a group from one group that likes to talk to pollsters and a group that supports another group that doesn't, you can get some very interesting results. And so we'll have to see how that plays out in New Mexico, but that's absolutely something we want to keep an eye on.
Anything locally you're keeping, again, there's a lot of just get out the vote. The city of Albuquerque is making it easy for people to get out the vote. I think they're actually transporting people to the polls. Make sure you exercise your right to vote. That's so important.
If you don't vote in Bernalillo County, it's because you don't want to. So there's people that will drive you to the polls today. There's a whole setup. The early voting is fantastic. You know, great number of locations around. And that's one of the big stories is not only in Bernalillo County, but across New Mexico, the huge numbers of people that voted early. If the people that vote today are kind of in line with that, we could have near record for recent memory turnout for a non-presidential election.
Okay, I think that's very interesting. I remember telling I used to complain about elections and politics, and I didn't vote till I was 30. So my mom would tell me, hey, you didn't vote, so you have nothing to say. So, and you know what? And she was right. She was right. So ever since then, I've exercised my right. Any opinion one way or the other, Rich, about any other elections? I know we're sports guys, and you know we try not to dabble too much there, and I try to stay away from that sometimes. I mean, I've got definite opinions, but I keep them to myself for the most part. Do you have any opinions one way or the other?
Just go back to what you say. You don't vote, you can't complain type of thing. You know, but one of the things that I was listening to a radio commercial the other day, which I had never heard this before, which is great when it comes to voting, is that they now have these like places you can, trying to find the right term for it, where they, command centers almost, where people in certain parts of the city, people just drive and there's like a command center now where you can go vote. So you don't have to go to a voting place. These things kind of come to you anymore. I think that's pretty cool.
I think I think that's there's no excuse not to voting. So make sure you exercise your right to vote.
Yeah.
And more than ever these days with social media and the messages that are being brought out there, there's about the right to vote. The polling locations, they'll practically drive you, take you back, put you back. So it's really convenient. So there's no excuse not to exercise that right. Whether you vote Democratic, Republican, Independent, vote.
Yeah. And it's not too late. Get out there and vote. There's a lot of places around Bernalillo County, the extended areas. Find out where those are. Secretary of State, the county clerks. It's in all the newspapers, so check it out. Get out there and vote, and we'll see what happens with that this evening.
One thing about the polls really quick, and I want to come back to it, is I like you say, we're sports guys, but I guess you can say political polls are like sports polls.
Yes.
At the end of the day, it's pretty much water cooler talk. But yes, just having those polls, again, it's those images, it's those faces, it's those names that people remember through those polls more than anything else. But it's great water cooler talk.
You know what? That's absolutely true. Wally, one of the questions I wanted to ask you, these political ads, I know for me, I am so tired of, hearing, about whatever party it is and whatever candidate to me. I mean, you have to make up your own mind and read about the issues and distinguish the message or, and wade through it. What's your opinion about some of these? I mean, thank God they're going to be over with after tonight. Because every time you turn on the TV, it's about one candidate or one party and how bad they are. And so, what's your opinion about those?
No one likes them. They have to have an element of effectiveness, or the campaigns wouldn't use them. But I read a great commentary that talked about, in the gubernatorial race, so much negative ads have been coming out that if you were to watch those, you'd think, oh my goodness, whichever one of these win, we're going to have a crook running our state. And the point of that article was remain calm. Things are not as bad as they look. Look for what the candidates stand for. These people, one or the other in all of these races, are going to be the one that wins. But yes, we will be very glad when those ads stop and we start going back to selling soap or whatever they're selling in those commercial spots.
I'll tell you what, I think, as far as those ads go, you see the extreme of both sides, and it's like, wow, man, yes. They can't be all that bad, right? Yes. Wally, do us a favor too. Tell us a little bit about your background in politics and what you bring to the table as far as your commentary tonight.
Yeah, I'm a lifelong New Mexican. Been following politics for a number of years. I worked in the energy industry as a lobbyist at communications for the New Mexico Oil and Gas Association, so that's where I kind of got into the political realm in terms of how it worked. I was pretty naive as a youth. I always thought that as a business person, you shouldn't need to get involved in politics. They would just do the right thing. That was pretty naive. And so along the way, I learned that you can have an impact by who gets elected, by putting forth your cause for whatever industry it is. But it's a lot like it was when our country is founded. There's a lot of competing ideas, and people are pretty far apart. And so, like you say, if you don't get out there and express your opinion by voting for all those different candidates, it's social media. We know they'll complain, but we don't think that you should have a right to.
I don't think I've ever seen a country, at least in my opinion, ideologies are so far apart right now. There used to be parties would somewhat work together. Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill worked together back in the day in 1986, even though they're on different side of the aisle. Yeah. And it seems like now, I told my wife this morning, that each party wants to crush the other. Yeah. And it's just about tribal politics, and it's kind of scary. And hopefully, with these elections, there's healing, and again, we've had some great representatives on both sides of the aisle. No question about it here in New Mexico and in the United States. But I've just never seen a country more divided, in my opinion. That's just what I think.
Well, and this is going to be very interesting in New Mexico too, because every 10 years you redraw the districts. Mm-hmm. So one of the discussions is that depending on which party has the power in Santa Fe, they may be able to redraw that District 2 in the south to be more advantageous one way or the other. But you're exactly right. And one of the things is in the primaries, if you're not far enough left or far enough right, then your biggest fear may not be the general election. It may be the party putting up a more conservative or a more liberal candidate, depending on how things play out in the primary. But by the time you get to the general election, they're very far apart, and we see that in many races in New Mexico.
Well, I think just one of the races that you talked about, Social Tour Small, they claim a liberal, and then you've got Yvette Harold siding with President Trump. So you couldn't probably have two parties, more divided, or two candidates more different than the other.
Yes. Yeah, and one thing we will do tonight is we will say things that, by definition, a lot of people won't agree with. But our goal that we know will be successful is we'll put some positions out there by our various panelists, but we want to be respectful. We still believe there's a place for honest, open disagreement in political dialogue. And then also using social media, you'll be able to go to Proview Network's Facebook page and give us some comments. Let us know what your experience was with the polls, what you thought on some of these issues, and if you have any questions for any panelists, that'll be a great opportunity for you to weigh in and see what's going on in the political process, and let our panelists kind of address some of the issues you might have as our viewers out there.
Wally, we appreciate you being on with us, and for this segment, tell us again what time the coverage starts.
Yeah, 7:30 tonight, Channel 26, and on Proview Network's Facebook page. 7:30 to 10:30, we will be there. Focus on, obviously, New Mexico and the local races, but we'll do a little bit what's going on nationally as well. And a great panelist. We look forward to having the folks out there in Proview Network's land listen to us this evening.
Wally Dragmeister, thanks so much for being our guest in this segment. We'll see you tonight. We'll be back on the Sports Desk after these messages.
Out of the tournament, and they took care of business tonight so far through three
Play
quarters.
action down the middle and look wide open is Chris Thomas. And
man, this beat is crazy.
Play action. It's coming over the middle, and it's caught. And rolling ahead on the tip pass was Manzanares.
Pitch to Martinez. Phillips not going to find the edge. The ball's out in dangerous spot. Green in front, and he's gonna tiptoe in. No, coach, they marked him down at the 4. I thought he walked the tightrope. At the 10, bounces off a defender, still on his feet, and he's in! Touchdown, Sartans!
Dropping and looking over the middle, ball's caught. Lane Smith spins around, breaks the tackle, goes to the end zone, touchdown ball, Halo Vista.
High school sports are back. The 2018-19 season kicks off, and you could watch every Proview Network broadcast live on the NFHS network. Every moment, from every game, from every sport, including all NMAA state championships. Get your highly discounted monthly pass now. Go to ProviewNetworks.com and sign up. Watch New Mexico's best.
Don't sacrifice quality and flavor when you're in a hurry. Golden Pride offers ribs, fried chicken, green and red chili breakfast burritos, and Frontier Cinnabons. 4 great locations, or visit us online at goldenpride@abq.com. Golden Pride Barbecue Chicken and Ribs, proud supporter of Proview Sports Network.
Get into the game with Garden Swartz Team Sales. They have everything you need, from screen printing, embroidery, and digital printing services, high school letterman jackets, and all high school and club uniforms, and individual and team apparel with the most reliable brands like Speedline, Rawlins, and Wilson. And don't forget to check out the latest F7 Shut helmet. It's all at Garden Swartz Team Sales. Give them a call, 505-884-1234. Garden Swartz Team Sales.
Welcome back to the Sports Desk live on Comcast Channel 26, also streaming live on Facebook. Ed Nunez along with Richard Tripp to my right, joined now by Proview President Steve Davis. Steve, welcome to the show.
Hey, well, thanks. First of all, I want to great attendance on the bracketology on Saturday night. I want to thank you and everybody that made it happen, and the viewership was great, and it just really emphasizes what kind of similar to, sorry, Richard, you couldn't make it on that deal, but
I'm sorry, I didn't.
It's something that you and we go back a long ways, and I just want, you guys should be proud of that. It was neat to see the response from the state and all the hard work, and I just wanted to thank you guys.
Well, you know what, I really appreciate it. I got to say this, we really miss Richard. Richard's a big part of what we do here and a big part of that bracket show. Adam Deal did a great job, Sebastian Noel, Scott Galletti, Manny Lucero, the guys in the back, the crew in the zoo, they always do great. And I'll tell you one thing, it was a lot of fun. You know, those are all projections, but Adam was pretty spot on a couple of those brackets. We'll go over those here in a few minutes, but Steve, wanted to ask you, Proview Network's venturing out into some election coverage tonight. We had Wally Dragmeister on the first segment, and, you know, we'd never done that. So I don't know if you want to talk about that a little.
Well, it's just showing that Proview can expand out besides sports. You know, sometimes some people think that we're just a sports channel, but really we're not. We reach out to the community. We've done it with mayor candidates this summer, our last year, and the future of Proview is to show that we can community, that we should be able to, just like we do broadcast, we do 750 broadcasts or more for sports. There should be 750 or more broadcasts for the city on a weekly basis.
Yeah, I think we definitely have ventured out. You've had, you've had Gary Johnson on, Brian Colon, a lot of different candidates on your show, on the Steve Davis show. So again, Proview election coverage. Mayor Keller came on. Yeah. That's right. Election coverage starts tonight, 7:30. Wally Dragmeister, Georgia Scott, a couple of other panelists will have some coverage for you. We've got some highlights from last week's games. Let's take a look at the highlights that we have for you.
over on the east side bleacher. Definitely dropping, looking, pump fakes, throws it out. Ball's open, caught at the 20. 15, 10, racing to the house. Touchdown, Volcano Vista. Ivan Rodriguez takes it to the house. I keep you updated as much as we can. Rolling out to the left, throw the ball in the end zone. Has a man out there. Ball's caught. Touchdown, Volcano Vista. Love it. Steele, here comes the pass. Looking out to the right, looking to reverse his field. Now it's a double pass. Ball's caught. All the way down to the 20-yard line. Mark. And dropping and looking over the middle. Ball's caught. Lane Smith spins around, breaks the tackle, goes to the end zone. Touchdown, Volcano Vista. Going out, drop in, throws it out deep. Has a man out there. Ball is caught. 20, 15, 10 to the house. Touchdown, Ivan Rodriguez. Be determined. We'll find out tomorrow night. Quick pass. Ball's caught. Man's open at the 20. Breaks the tackle at the 15 and brought down there. Jacob Padilla, the ball's loose and comes up with it. Sanchez Maxwell came up with it. He's at the 35 and brought down at the 30. This offense. Handoff left side in the end zone. Touchdown, Jimmy Gallegos. This time they go right side. And in for the two-point conversion is Gallegos. Play action, blitz coming over the middle, and it's caught. And rolling ahead on the tip pass was Manzanares. Trips out to the right side. Martinez coming out. They swing it out to him. Clear shot to the end zone. Touchdown, Cibola Cougars. Steele ready, dropping. Quarterback draw. He's in the end zone for the two-point conversion to the right side. Throws it in the corner of the end zone. Ball is caught. Touchdown, Cibola.
Here's the option and the pitch to the outside. There's tons of room and walking into the end zone.
Man, this beat is crazy.
It's Nieto in motion. And the handoff is to Colton Madison. And Madison is going to stroll in on a casual.
Themselves out of the tournament, and they took care of business tonight so far.
Play action down the middle and look wide open is Chris Thomas. And
go. Sanchez following his blockers. He's in. Touchdown. Diego Sanchez in the Wildcat. Throws.
Oh my
Caught.
God.
Touchdown.
Wow.
What a catch. Oh my goodness. They thought Williamson in motion from right to left. Benavides will roll to his
wide
left.
open.
Got a receiver for Coons wide open.
Wow.
20, 15, 10, 5. Touchdown. Touchdown.
Man, this beat is crazy.
Low snap for Benavides. He's throwing long. One-on-one coverage by Garcia. Cut! Garcia in the clear. Garcia's going to score. Touchdown. The yard line, the Eagles will go for it. Play fake to Casillas. Aragon under pressure, rolls to his left. He's got a receiver open. Roy ball's wide open. Cut. Touchdown.
Wow.
Go full house backfield. Dances drops the ball. Fumbles. Still on. Let's see. Scramble for it. Let's see who came up with it.
A lot of highlights that we had for you this past weekend, courtesy of our great producers in the studio. You had the call for Cibola Volcano Vista. And, you know, we mentioned this on the selection show on Saturday. Cibola sneaks in as a 12. And you know what? I think the consensus from our panel, and I don't know what your feelings are, Cibola is a heck of a team, right? They're 5-5. Carlsbad had some good victories, too. So, you know, the NMA had a lot of things to think about as far as who got into 12. And it was Cibola. Any thoughts about your game Friday night against Volcano Vista playing really well down the stretch? But any thoughts about your game Friday night?
You know, the one thing I always say about Cibola, I've been kind of keeping an eye on him the last couple of years. And talking to, Rod Williams, who I've gotten to know pretty well the last year or so, it's a program still being built, but they're very athletic. Mark is still back there at the quarterback position, might be one of the most athletic quarterbacks around. They're just on that threshold. And I look back at the Rio Rancho game when Rio beat them on the last play of the game, and I remember making the comment, the winner of this game is getting in. It was a do-or-die game, I thought, for both those teams. I'm very glad that Cibola got in at the 12. I think being the fact that they're close games, they're near misses, as I'm not going to say they're a dangerous team. I wouldn't go that far. But they have as much athleticism as anyone in that bracket.
Yeah, they really do. Steve, any thoughts about the Cibola Cougars? You've seen them a couple times.
Well, I'll tell you, I think Richard said it right, that they're very athletic, and I think they haven't proved that they can win. Okay, I think if they can get that, that quality win and get some confidence, and don't take anything away from the district they're in. Okay,
Exactly.
I mean that kind of shows you that that's probably one of the top districts in the state, from 1 to 4, 1 to 5, and so with that being said, is that he is building a program, and if they can get, they're a team you just don't want to play in the playoffs.
I think one of the things that I take away from Cibola is we're going to go over these brackets here in a second. Are you happy to be there? Are you just glad that you got in and you're relieved and our job is over? Or are you going to, again, you mentioned the athleticism with Steele, Manzanares. They have some fantastic athletes. Are we going to get that signature win that Steve talked about?
And play for the whole game. I mean, I've seen them all season long. They have spurts of greatness, then they have spurts of not being consistent for 32 months.
Yeah, and we've seen that. That's been their reason that they've struggled. But as you mentioned, Richard, we had them against Las Lunas, myself and Roger Holian earlier in the year.
Basketball. I'm already jumping to basketball.
That's right around the corner.
Right.
But they lost 38-35 in a thriller. And those, I think Steve's right. They just haven't got pushed through. But are you happy to be there, or are you going to go, get that signature win that we talked about? Let's go over the brackets for you, and we'll start at the 3A level first. Again, great job by our producers here and getting them together. And there's the 3A bracket there with Hope Christian being the number 1 seed there, Richard, and there's no surprise there. The Huskies, and the only thing that I kind of think about them, have they had a challenge and faced some adversity? They're cruising, right? And Richard, you've coached for many years. Sometimes kids get in that mindset that, gosh, we're going to win it. The blue trophy's ours. And, and I'm sure, the coach over there is not telling them that. Right. I'm sure Gary Beck is every day challenging them. Any thoughts about the 3A bracket, Richard?
Usually I abstain from this bracket because, of course, when I was the AD at West Las Vegas, but now I can chime in on it. I saw Hope play earlier. I've seen West, of course, play many times. Robertson, know him very well. I've seen Nimi play. Dexter, I know a lot about them. Socorro, I've seen them as well. Yeah, I agree with you on one thing. The problem with Hope is this. If there is one problem, they haven't played in 3 weeks. That's probably the biggest problem. Now, chances are they're going to play the winner of Zuni, Tularosa. They'll handle them. They're so athletic. Hope has got to be one of the most fun. I mean, top to bottom, they have the complete package. They'll get them ready, I think, for either Robertson or St. Mike's. Both these teams can give Hope one issue. St. Mike's can throw the ball very well. They've been hurt early in the season. Robertson, they're up and down, but they put a game together and look out. On the flip side, Socorro might be that one team that people look at and say, how good are they? We're going to find out. West Las Vegas and Cobre, 11-6. It's a very dangerous matchup for my Dons, even though Cobre's going up there. Hatch and Nimi, Hatch better get control of that game early because Nimi is going to run you to death. As far as the clock, 98% of their offense is running. Dexter, hard-nosed football team, one of the best quarterbacks. Amaro in the state of New Mexico, great matchups. It's Hope's to lose.
You think, and that's what our panel said on Saturday, that Hope was the overwhelming favorite. They've got Vince Quesada can kick from 55 yards.
Easy.
But I think the thing about staying out 3 weeks is, boy, I know Coach Beck can't you want your team to play. I mean, Las Lunas had a rare 2-week off because of a scheduling snafu, and we'll talk about the Tigers here when we get to 5A, but they still, are rolling along. But I think as a coach, you hate to sit out that long. Everything gets kind of, you're complacent. Right. Complacency sets in. Can we look at 4A, Alden, please? Let's take a look at the 4A bracket here. And again, Richard and Steve will weigh in here in a minute. No surprise with St. Pius. And Richard, I had them earlier in the year against Kirtland Central. And they beat Kirtland Central in September. And I got to be honest with you, at that time there, I wasn't very overly impressed with the Sergeants. They had some offensive line problems, but the quarterback Rivera has played lights out. Josh Arnett, the safety's playing well. Magaha, McCoy, they have some good players and some good playmakers. And I think when they beat Taos and shut them out in Milne about 3 weeks ago, 27-0, everyone started saying, hey, Pius is for real in this class.
Well, I'll tell you, I think Pius was for real from day one. It's just a matter of getting it together, getting everybody on the same page. The one team that I look at that stands out is Portales, even though they got the 2 seed. Coach Jaime down there. After last year, then losing to Robertson in the semifinals the way they did last year, everybody thought they were done. But I saw them play earlier in the season. They're very quick, very big running backs, very big offensive line. Another team that I'm kind of looking at here is Aztec, even though they're the 9th seed. I think they're a lot better than people give them credit for. I really do. I think 5-12, it doesn't really matter, comes out of that, no disrespect. I think Kirtland's going to be in the semis. But I look at Taos, known Coach Artabreo for a long time. They went through that midseason lull, especially when they lost to Pius. They went through a little bit of a midseason lull. They had struggled with Bernalillo the first half, the last week of the season. In this case, I do think it's going to play out 1 versus 2. Pius, to me, like you said, once they got it together, Ed, and I agree with you 100%, man, they're clicking right now.
Yeah, they
totally.
Really, Steve, any thoughts on 4A bracket that we're looking at?
Well, I guess I have personal Proview networks has to do. If Pius can win, that they're going to be at home, and if Hope wins, they're going to be at home, and in 5A, if Cleveland or La Cueva win, then it'll be a pretty welcome for Proview networks that will be in close proximity of each other.
Games here. Let's take a look at the 5A
Great day
bracket.
for Albuquerque.
Right. Yeah. 5A bracket, and this is a real class I've been real familiar with because I've been writing for Enchantment Sports on this class all season long. You know what? Roswell got the top seed. You've got Las Lunas at a 3, Artesia at a 4, Goddard. Let's go numerically correct. Roswell number 1, Goddard 2, Las Lunas 3, Artesia number 4. Richard, any surprises there?
No, at all. I mean, 0. I mean, I said at the beginning of the year, the 2 classes to me that were going to stand out, that I think were going to be the most fun, was Class 2A and Class 5A. I think so far, for the exception of Eunice and 2A, it's playing out. 5A, it's played out to a T. I think you can justify Las Lunas. They're down to the 3rd string quarterback, and here they are, the number 3 seed. But I honestly believe 1, 2, and 4, no disrespect to Las Lunas, it played out, exactly to a T. To me, don't expect anything until the semifinals to really come out of this class.
What I thought, and again, I talked to Judge Chavez this morning, about his game against Santa Teresa. He wasn't surprised about the seed that they received. He was okay with that. But if the team that I think is Roswell Goddard. And Roswell Goddard lost to Roswell on Friday. Before that, they're undefeated. Right. I've talked to Roswell Goddard head coach Chris White 2 or 3 times. And, everybody respects him. They have a great defense. Dalton Bowles, their quarterback. They play sets to his strengths. Runs the option and runs it as well as anyone, according to Xavier, the Santa Teresa coach. So keep an eye on Goddard. Richard and Steve, too, I want you to weigh in on this. This year, more than anyone, I think Artesia is vulnerable. I really do. Now, when you mention Artesia like Hobbs, people start quaking in their boots. The Bulldog Bowl, 30 championships. I get it. And you know what? They're still formidable. They definitely are. But when I talked to Goddard head coach Chris White, he says, hey, look, we've had success against Artesia. We don't back up to anyone. I think, and again, they've won their championships and they're a great program. But more than any season, I think they're vulnerable this year. I really do.
If anyone is unafraid of Artesia, it's Goddard. In any environment. Everybody else, like you said, if you get them in the Bulldog Bowl, yeah, there's a little bit of that. Like you said, going to Tasker Arena, it's that mystique, if you will. But if anyone, it is, and I agree with you, they are vulnerable. I think this is just going to come down to who plays at home.
That's going to be the key there. I think the other one, 5-12, Piedra Vista, winners of 4 or 5. Del Norte sophomore running back Isaiah Ortiz, nine touchdowns? 9 touchdowns, broke a 1967 record, 370 yards. So you know what? Del Norte on a roll going in, but they have to travel to Piedra Vista. That's going to be a tough jaunt up there. And Rich, Farmington has to take a 340-mile trip to Demi, the longest trip of anybody in that class. Steve, any thoughts on the 5A bracket?
Well, I think, you look at this, Roswell and, Artesia in the same side of the bracket, and you got Goddard and Los Lunas. I think that Roswell and Artesia game, if they do meet, is going to be very interesting. They've been very close. I don't think exciting football in that radius between the Artesia and Roswell. I mean, the game's been gone down to the last second, 3 points. So where I'm going with this is exciting football that we're going to see in this district.
Yeah, this one here is going to be a very interesting one. Let's take a look at the 6A football bracket. And again, no surprise there. Cleveland, the overwhelming number 1 seed. La Cueva, number 2. Centennial, number 3. Volcano Vista, number 4. Richard.
Well, we kind of, as the weeks went on in this class, it really started to weed itself out to a point where Cleveland, even though they lost their top back, man for man on that team, their defense. I said this since I saw Centennial. Cleveland, La Cueva, Centennial have the best defenses in that class. And that, to me, this time of the year stands out. For La Cueva, the secret weapon is in their special teams, their field goal kicker as well. If you get this thing within 40 yards, if it's a close game, this is where La Cueva becomes more dangerous than any other team out there. Manzano, we talked about them. Slow start, defending state champs. Look out. Rio Rancho's still trying to find their identity. Have they found it? Well, they better find it in a hurry. Mayfield and Cibolo. Hey, man, anytime you play the Mayfield Trojans, I mean, I love Cibolo, but anytime you play the Mayfield Trojans in the playoffs, they become a whole different animal. So, same thing with Cruces. But that's an interesting matchup. Cruces and Clovis, to me, is the most interesting matchup. I think Hobbs might be the most dangerous team, though.
You got 2 teams playing there, Eagles against Eagles with Hobbs.
Right.
And El Dorado does Gabe Smith come back for El Dorado. We talked to him on Friday, and I talked to El Dorado head coach Charlie Dotson, who wasn't real, forthcoming. I'm not sure. And we'll see. And somebody asked, Ben West, the El Dorado running back, ran for 300 yards on Friday. And that's kind of the most under thing, I haven't really heard a lot about it. 300 yards, think about it. So Ben West played very well. But if they can get Gabe Smith back, we'll see about that matchup. Steve, your thoughts about 6A?
I'll tell you, you hit it right. El Dorado, I think, is the team to watch out for right now. If Gabe Smith is, they go down and they could have an easy, wouldn't surprise me if they do go. They could beat Hobbs going down if they're healthy, with all the things that happen. So, a number 11 seed, that could be my upset of the whole brackets right there. And again, Cleveland is the team to beat. I think it was proven, against Rio Rancho that they're right now, Coach Reiner's got them playing on all cylinders, and they just like next man's up, and they got that mentality to take it all away.
Really quick on Volcano Vista, I've seen them a couple of times. Remember, this is the one team that probably pushed Cleveland the furthest of anybody in that bracket. You look at even though Cleveland pulled away late, I mean, the points that Volcano was able to pull up on Cleveland. Volcano, the thing I noticed about Volcano, they've got weapons. Deathridge, solid at the QB. They can run the football. The one area that Volcano could have problems with, I hate to say it, might be on the defensive side of the football. But they have proven that if anybody pushed Cleveland, they pushed them the furthest of anybody in that class.
They brought 46 against Cleveland, 61-46. Cleveland scores a late touchdown and made the score a little bit misleading, but they most certainly did. Jimmy Gallegos' speed at running back, as you mentioned. Once in a while, that team, I think, gets a little bit undisciplined, gets some penalties at the end of the game that they shouldn't. But I think, again, and one team that Centennial, I haven't seen them very much. They're undefeated. Aaron Ocampo, Steve said, has done a great job out there. And I don't know that we're mentioning them enough because we see so much of Cleveland here in the Metro. It's kind of hard to overlook the Storm though because they do lose Dorian Lewis, but I think one of the key stats from that game on Friday night is the Storm rush for 87 yards. They're not getting those big chunk, at least Friday night, the big chunk yardage that they do when Lewis is in there. That's understandable. That's one game. But the coach and Coach Ridenour that knows how to adjust to when he loses players. He's still got Colton Madison, Trey Watson. He's still got the quarterback, Davison, has done a great job for being a sophomore. So it's a culture of winning out there, Rich, I think.
Well, Centennial, I saw them play, and I've been keeping tabs of them. Offensively, they're okay. They'll score enough to win. It's on the defensive side of the football, when I saw them play, they are very quick. They're very fast to the outside. They got linebackers that can get to the spot. Even games that they won 17-14, 21-14, their defense kept them in the game. And since I saw them, I figured that's going to be their strength. It won't be their offense. If they were to get to that point, can they hold Cleveland to, let's say, 28 points? That's manageable maybe for Centennial, maybe. They could probably, Centennials against La Cueva, the same thing if they match up. Can their defense keep La Cueva's offense in check enough to give them a chance?
Of course, La Cueva has a great defense as well. Steve,
right.
Thoughts about
exactly.
6A?
Well, it's just going to be a great, it's going to be great matchups, I think, and I really think Cleveland's the team, to beat. But on any given day, any of those other teams can beat Cleveland.
Yeah, there's no question about it. It's going to be a great tournament, no question. Steve, thanks so much for being on with us. Appreciate it.
You bet.
We'll be back to the sports desk after these messages.
Is this my car? State Farm knows that for every one of those moments,
This is ridiculous!
there's one of these.
Is this my car? What? This is ridiculous.
This can't be happening!
This can't be happening.
Oh, it's happening, sweetheart.
Oh, it's happening, sweetheart.
Shut up.
Shut up!
Ah!
That's why State Farm is there, with car insurance for when things go wrong, but also here with car loans to help life go right. State Farm.
Talk to State Farm agent Marty Size or Michelle Rudolph in Albuquerque today.
Sadie's is a proud supporter of New Mexico high school sports and athletics, and we here at Proview Networks would like to thank Sadie's for their continued support in helping us bring you all of your New Mexico high school sports coverage.
Car Crafters, proud supporter of Proview Sports Network.
Are you sure we're supposed to be doing this? Don't worry, I've watched him do it 1,000 times. Come on, what's the worst that can happen?
No! Bad dog! Hi, welcome to Car Crafters. What happened?
Don't worry, we'll make it like it never happened.
Car crafters, it's like it never happened.
This is Coach Borrego of the Charlotte Hornets. Hello to all you parents out there in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I want to congratulate 38 years for the AYBL. You guys are doing a great job. You've shaped a lot of lives, young men and women, and you'll continue to do that. Parents, get involved, sign your kid up. It's a great program. It helped shape who I am today, helped shape me as a basketball player, as a coach. So get out there, sign them up. Have a great season. Good luck to everybody.
Dreamstyle Remodeling has been wowing homeowners in New Mexico since 1989. Selected as Best Custom Home Remodeler for 3 consecutive years by readers of the Albuquerque Journal, we're also your exclusive provider for top home improvement brands like Renewal by Anderson, Four Seasons, Blaze King, and many others. Founded and headquartered in Albuquerque, Dreamstyle Remodeling is family-owned and now employs more than 500 people across the southwestern U.S. In fact, we've helped more than 60,000 homeowners improve their home in New Mexico, Arizona, California, Idaho, and West Texas. We're committed to providing a superior customer experience. We've earned 4.6 stars with hundreds of online reviews and have an A+ with the BBB. Dreamstyle Remodeling is a proud supporter of UNM Athletics. Visit our beautiful 10,000 square foot showroom at 1460 Renaissance Boulevard across from Sam's Club or dreamstyleremodeling.com to make your home remodeling dreams come true.
Talk to State Farm agent Greg Shamus today.
The Barley Room, proud sponsor of Proview Networks for over 9 years, is pleased to introduce Black Iron Catering. From weddings and family reunions to birthdays and office parties, Black Iron Catering is perfect for any event. Contact Jamie at 505-459-8259 and book your event today. Black Iron Catering.
Well, I'm going to the frontier, walking to the cashier, order up a root beer and a number one. Cover it with green stuff, one scoop is not enough. Find a booth is real tough, back by the Duke. Meet my family, meet my friends in the quirkiest restaurant I have ever been. All of Albuquerque's favorite spot, it's the Frontier Restaurant.
The Frontier Restaurant is a proud supporter of Proview Sports Network.
Welcome back to the Sports Desk live on Comcast Channel 26. Also Facebook, streamed on Facebook. Ed Nunez along with Richard Tripp. We had in our first segment, Wally Dragmeister. Proview Networks will have election coverage tonight starting at 7:30 p.m. Something new. And the second segment, we had Steve Davis and we broke down the 3A, 4A, 5A, and 6A football brackets. Also broke those down with Richard Tripp. And Rich, you weren't able to be on the show on Saturday, but you've been a member of Proview Networks or a member of the team since the show all started, what, 10, 11 years ago, I believe.
Yeah, we actually, I was thinking the other day, we actually did the first ever seeding show, if you will, me and Mike Foote. We did a baseball seeding selection show. I mean, when we're like
global baseball player.
Yeah. 2 years into, I think, Proview Networks, and him and I sat in the old studio up on Wyoming Boulevard, and and Steve and JD at the time, when we ran this idea by them, and Mike came in, and from there it just kind of took off, man. I mean, I look back, and that was the first one, and look where it is today.
So many memories, and so many. Again, you coached at West Las Vegas,
right?
Baseball, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, you've got a teacher for how many years?
I taught at West Las Vegas for 30 years, I'd say, rounded off.
What did you teach over there?
History, English, government. I did a semester at Atrisco too, though. Go Jags.
Well, you know what? Your heart is in the north, man.
Yes, sir. Norteño, man.
You spent many years as an educator, as a coach, broadcaster. It's always been about New Mexico kids for you. And I know, you love to do, what you do as far as you're retired now. And,
right.
You're getting to do a lot of things. You're also broadcasting football as we speak, for New Mexico Highlands. You'll start basketball here in another couple of weeks. Also, I wanted to ask you about Tripp's Corner. That's a show that's seen, I believe, every Thursday night.
Thursday.
Let's get a plug in for it Thursday night.
Yeah.
What time?
5:30 on Comcast, and 6 o'clock they switch over to YouTube.
I wanted to ask you, Richard, because I've seen it. You've had Ron Murphy, Lori Mabry, Charles Ashley, Wilson Holland, Cooper Henderson. You've had some great guests. Where did the idea for the show come from? I mean, Rich, so many people, like me, we've spent a lot of time in New Mexico athletics, and me as an official, I know a lot of people. You know a lot of people as an educator and a coach. Where did the idea for Trips, and I think it's a great show, by the way, where did the idea come from?
Actually, Steve and I and Adam were just sitting down one day, and Steve asked me, do you want to do a show? This was when I retired as the AD from West Las Vegas, and my dream was always to come back to Proview full time. And we were sitting around, and we said, well, what about this type of show? Why don't we take the show on the road, go interview former ADs, former coaches, people that came from rural areas, for example, and kind of trace where they got to today, where they started. It was interesting, like you say, Ron Murphy, who was raised in Brooklyn, New York, how he got to New Mexico. Wilson Holland, being raised by adopted mom, to being the athletic director at Los Lunas today. Just the journey has been, that's kind of like where the show started forming, and Adam and Steve gave me their blessing. And, so that's what we do. We take the fans on a journey, from where they started back in their beginnings to where they are today. It's been pretty fun.
It's funny because Wilson Holland and I officiated together, for many years. Wilson is one of the top officials in the Southwest. And, also a former star athlete at Alamogordo, I believe, in the Hall of Fame in New Mexico Highlands as a football player. AD at both Valencia and Los Lunas.
Right.
And, I remember back in the day, and I know you remember too, when Lenny Roybal was the athletic director at Espanola and Santa Fe. And I used to wonder, how in the heck did Coach Roybal pull that off? Because that's a big rivalry between Espanola and Santa Fe. It used to be, not so much anymore, but back in the day, man, you know, I used to kind of wonder how Coach Roybal, you know, pulled that off. So I kind of wonder how Wilson, that's a Valencia rivalry right there, being the AD of Valencia High School and also Las Lunas High School. And let me tell you something about Wilson. I'll just tell you this, a real serious guy, man. When we're on the floor, there's no, you know, in fact, I remember he would tell me if we called together. He's like, Ed, if I tease someone, you know, you know, we weren't looking, he's just talking pregame. I may not want you to go talk to that other coach. Because, you know, usually you got the good cop, bad cop. Right. Somebody might give a tee, and then the other guy goes and talks to the coach, and, okay, he listens. And so Wilson will make it clear before the game, like, look, Ed, if I do that, I may not want you to talk to that coach. So just a real serious about his officiating, man. You know, and he always keeps in tremendous shape. You know, I don't know how many games a year he calls, about 150, 100, 160, you know, while still maintaining his job at, you know, and raising his kids. And most of them are, I think he's got one left. That's, and this, I understand that girl or boy?
Boy.
A heck of an athlete as well.
Might be the best one. No offense to the two older ones.
Oh, man. They're listening, boy.
Because I'm telling you, those two older ones are pretty good.
Yeah, so, you know, I think you're going to have your guest is going to be.
We get to have Steve Davis on the show today, man. I get to interview Steve Davis, and I got to tell you, I'm nervous. I mean, I get to interview my boss from Proview Networks, and we're going to talk about his playing days back in Clovis, growing up in Clovis, coming to UNM, you know, to all of this that people get to see today at Proview Networks, man. I'm kind of nervous, but I'm looking forward to it, man.
Well, it's funny because, you know, I remember back in the day when he played for the Lobos, I remember, and I said this on the sports desk a couple of weeks ago, when some athletes walked out on Coach Ellenberger. You know, 5 of the starters walked out, and Steve got to start that night against UTEP. And I remember I was about 13, 12 years old, being in the pit with Cibola head coach Ray Rodriguez, who went to Highland. You know, he's 2 years older than me. But I remember watching that whole game, and Steve Davis had 21 points, I believe. Dan Davis, 20 points. The other Davis, they used to think they were brothers. They weren't. But I remember that game. And in the pit, of course, being the pit at that time, you know, 18,000. Back in the day, I told my son this. He didn't believe this, but even when they had Lobo Gate, you know, when you know, Ellenberger and the program came crashing down, they still sold out with walk-ons against U.S. International, against Pan American. There'd still be 18,000. Yeah. And, you know, things have changed a little bit as far as Lobo. Back in the day, the passion for Lobo basketball was off the charts. I'm not so sure passion's like that for any sport anymore because things have been watered down through budgets. And, you know, unfortunately, you know, Lobo football drops a decision to San Diego State, and we hope for better times for the Lobo football program. But yeah, I think that your program and the people that you interview is fascinating because they're people, like you said, Lori Mabry from Kirtland Central, you know, in her journey. Right. So I think that everyone's really enjoyed it, and I know you've had fun with it. And I got to ask you too, because retirement's coming for me. How you enjoying it, Rich? I think everybody.
I'm enjoying it. Yeah. You know, when I left West Las Vegas, my alma mater, my heart and soul, you know, as the AD, it was hard. It was very, very hard and difficult. But again, coming back to Proview Networks, you know, being retired, you know, and being at Proview has given me the opportunity to, you know, enjoy what I'm doing. You know, loving, like you said, you and I are in the same boat. We love New Mexico high school athletics. We love New Mexico kids. You know, we love New Mexico coaches, those ones that have put in the blood, sweat, and tears. And, you know, so it's been the thing about it, and I think you're close to it. You're going to enjoy doing what you're doing with Proview Networks more because you're able to, you know, spend more time at it, talk to those coaches more, talk to those players more. So it's going to be a treat for you. I can guarantee it.
Yeah, you know what you put in the time. I'll tell you what, 30 years as an educator. Next December for me, it'll be 30 years, you know, working within the city community centers and senior centers. And, you know, I'm looking, there's an end to it. Although I love what I do, right?
I love it too.
So, but I think, and Rich, you definitely put in your time. And I see the way your former players still respond. You have the utmost respect for you. It's about integrity and respect. And you certainly show people that by the way you treat other people. And that's really important. Not everybody's like that. For Richard Tripp, producer Alden Ioane, Steve Davis, I'm Ed Nunez. Scott Galletti will be back next week. Thank you for watching the Sports Desk.